Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's Daf is Kesubos Tzadi Gimel. We are at the Mishnah, which is 6 lines from the top of the Yomit. Mi shahaya nasui shalosh nashim umeis. This fellow was married to 3 women, Rachel, Leah, and Bilhah. He passes away. All 3 have a ksuba, and as Rashi tells us, they were all signed and committed to on the same day. There is no priority, as in the previous Mishnah, where we had one, and then came the next, then came the next. No, here, they've all been committed to at the same time on the same day. So they have an equal claim on this fellow's properties. The thing is, the amounts are different. Ksuba shalzu mana. The first lady's ksuba is just a mana. Perhaps she was an almana when she was married to him. Vishalzu masaim, lady number 2, her ksuba is worth 200. Vishalzu, lady number 3, has a ksuba worth shalosh meyas 300. Now, if there's enough to go around, there's no issue. Ve'ein shem ela mana. This fellow only left behind 100 zuz. Not enough to go around. Cholken b'shava. Since all 3 women technically have the same type of claim on this first 100, they all have equal rights to that first 100. First lady who has 100 in her ksuba, second lady who has 200, third lady who has 300. Concerning the first 100 that they found, they seem to all have an equal right, equal access to it. And therefore, Chalkin B'Sheva, they split it amongst themselves equally, 33 1/3 per Isha. Case number 2, Hayusham Masayim, he left behind 200 coins. How do we allocate this to the Nashim? Shalmana Naitelas Chamishim. The first lady who has a ksuba mana, she gets 50. Shalmasayim Vishal Shalish Meis. Lady number 2, whose ksuba is 200. And lady number 3, whose ksuba is 300. Shaloisha. Each one gets 3 gold coins, which are worth 25 zuz each. Shaloisha Shalzav. Each one gets 3 dinari zav, so 3 times 25 is 75. Each one gets 75. So out of the 200, we give 50 to lady number 1, and woman number 2 and 3 get 75 each. Now the Gemara will explain the rationale behind this type of allocation, which seems to be a little bit surprising and not really understandable. The Gemara will go into it, rest assured. Here comes case number 3. Hayasham Shalish Meis. He left behind 300 coins. And again, we have these 3 women. Lady number 1, number 2, and number 3. Shalmana Natelis Chamishim. First lady gets 50. Vishal Masayim, the one who has a ksuba of 200, she gets mana, 100 zuz. Vishal Shalish Meis, the Isha who has the ksuba worth 300, Shisha Shalzav, she gets 6 gold coins. 6 times 25 is 150. So it's 50, 100, and 150. Again, the Gemara will explain in great detail. V'chein, in similar fashion, Gimel sheitilu lekis, you have 3 fellows who contributed funds into a shared sort of fund used to invest and to earn profits. Pichsu, suppose they lost some money on that deal, or hisiru, or there was some profit taking. Kach hein cholkin, they use this type of formula when they reallocate their funds, when they liquidate the business. It's all prorated according to your contribution. Okay, now the Gemara will explain the halachas pertaining to the ksuba first, and then we'll go into the common fund. So again, we have 3 nashim. One lady has a ksuba worth mana, which is 100 zuz. Lady number 2 has 200 in her ksuba, and lady number 3 has 300. In the first case of the Mishnah, we found just 100 zuz. Mishnah tells us they all get an equal share. As Rashi explained to us, because none of them have an advantage over the other one pertaining to this 100. Even the lady with the least amount in her ksuba has an equal claim pertaining to this 100, just as the other ones. So we split that one equally. In case number 2, and that's going to be the focal point of the upcoming Gemara, we discovered 200 zuz. How do we allocate that money? Mishnah tells us, lady number 1, the one that has the lowest ksuba, the one with the 100, she gets 50. Lady number 2, who has a ksuba worth 200, and lady number 3, with a ksuba worth 300, 2 and 3 get 75 each. Why? Shalman and Natelas Chamishim. First lady gets 50. Why 50? Split the money equally. Meaning, we found 200 zuz. Lady number 1, her claim only tops up at the 100, meaning she doesn't go past the 100. So in that first 100, she has an equal claim with the other women. Let's split it 3 ways. Tzilasan, Betlasa, 33 Betilsa, and a third per Isha, Hu de Isla, that's what she should get. Why does lady number 1 get 50? Omar Shmuel, we're speaking about a unique situation because Sevis Balos Masai, Le Balos Mana. We happen to be speaking about a case where lady number 2, right? Lady number 1 is going to be the one that had 100. Lady number 2, the one that has 200. Lady number 3 with the ksuba 300. Okay, so just to keep it brief and clear, we'll go lady number 1, lady number 2, lady number 3. So lady number 1, who's supposed to get the 100, and lady number 2, who's supposed to get the 200, they had a deal. Because Sevas Balos Mosaim, lady number 2, committed in writing, Labalos Mana, to lady number 1, look, you're a tough fellow, I'm not going to get involved with you. Dinu dvarim ainli imach b'mana. You know what? Anything pertaining to that first 100, leave me out of it. I'm going to be uninvolved. I can't haggle with you about that. Therefore, once she pulls away from that first 100, it basically leaves lady number 1 and lady number 3 on their own to split that first 100, which results in lady number 1 getting 50. Right? They only split it 2 ways. If that's the case, Amos safe. Let's move on to the next aspect of this case. So lady number 1, 50. What about lady number 2 and 3? Shal Mosaim v'shal Shalish Meas. What did they get? 75. Shalish Shalish Al Zav. Why? Lady number 3 should get 100. And lady number 2, 50, because she already gave up her rights pertaining to that first 100. So she gave up on that. First 100 was split between number 1 and number 3. Each one got 50. Number 2 is out of the picture at this point. She already abdicated her rights. She released herself from that. She'll get part of the second 100. Right? She gave up her rights with reference to the first 100. So she'll get part of the second 100. Okay, that's acceptable. So number 2 and number 3 will split that second 100, 50 apiece. Tame Allah. Why did they get 75 each? Number 3 should turn to number 2. Hasalkas nafshach minah. Haven't you pulled away from 100 number 1? So all you have is a claim on 100 number 2, with which you will split equally with me, 50-50. So it will turn out that lady number 1 got 50. Lady number 3 will get 100. She'll get 50 from the first 100 and 50 from the second 100, which she split with lady number 2, who only gets 50. Answer, Mishnah Amr Allah, because number 2 turns to number 3 and responds. Mindinu dvarim hu deslikin afshai. True, I pulled away. I withdrew from lady number 1, who was a tough cookie. I was uninterested in getting involved with her. I didn't actually give her a gift. I just said, I'm not going to get involved with you. So I gave up my schus to be involved with her. Okay, but once she's out of the way, she takes her 50. Once lady number 1 takes half of the first 100 and disappears, leaves the scene, and leaves behind the other 50, now that's a different story. Oh, it's between me and you. Lady number 2 is speaking to lady number 3. It's between me and you. Okay, now we'll start fresh. I never meant to give it away. So now we start between me and you, and we split whatever's left. What is left? 150. We started with 200. Number 1 took 50. That leaves us with 150. Okay, 75 for me and 75 for you. Let's go on to the next case of the Mishnah. Case number 3. He left behind 300 coins. What does the Mishnah tell us? That lady number 1 gets 50. Lady number 2 gets 100. And lady number 3 gets 150. Now the Gemara is assuming that this is pretty much a repeat of the previous scenario. That lady number 2 had pulled away from lady number 1. I'm uninvolved with anything pertaining to dividing that first 100. We're assuming it's the same type of case. That brings us to a kasha. Why? Shal Mosayim Mana. You're telling me that number 2 gets 100. Shivim v'chamisha di isla. She's only supposed to get 75. We started with 300. And the first 100, well, number 2 is uninvolved in that. She's allowing number 1 and number 3 to split that equally. So it's 50 apiece. Right? And now, number 2 and number 3 are going to split, are going to divide what? How much are they going to divide? They're going to divide the remaining 50 of that first 100, as we explained before, because they both have a right to that, plus the second 100, which lady number 2 also has a right to, because her Kesubos is 200. So her right extends up until 200. So number 2 and number 3 will split that 150 into 2, 75 apiece. And the third 100 goes directly to Isha number 3, the Balas Sholosh Meyos. So instead of coming up with the amount of the Mishnah, it should have been a bit different. Number 1 should get her 50, half of the first 100. And then number 2 and number 3 should split the next 150 between themselves, leaving the last 100 squarely for Isha number 3. So it should be 50, 75, and 175 for the last Isha. If we're speaking indeed about a case where number 2 had given number 1 full rights to take half of the first 100. Omar Shmuel, actually, let's tweak it a bit. Indeed, there was an Isha who gave up her rights, but it wasn't number 2 to number 1 as in the previous case. Rather, it was number 3 who gave up her rights to number 1 and number 2 pertaining to that first 100. Amar Shmuel B'Kesubos. This time, it was number 3 writing, number 3 committing to number 1 and number 2. Because Kesubos balas sholosh meyos lebalas masaim lebalas mana. Number 3 committed in writing to the other 2 women, to the number 1 and number 2. I'm going to have nothing to do with you pertaining to dividing that first 100. Oh, so now, let's break it down. We have 300 in total to deal with. Woman number 1 and woman number 2 take the first 100 of that 300, which they both have an equal claim to, and split it amongst themselves. Without, accounting for number 3 who gave up her rights as per that 100. Okay, so it's 50-50. She gets 50, she gets 50. Then we proceed to the second 100 of that 300. So Isha number 1 is already off the scene. She already got her portion of the first 100. She's out of the way. Now comes number 2, whose claim extends up into and including the second 100. She already got 50 from the first 100. Now she has to divide that second 100 with number 3. So she gets 50 out of that. In addition to the previous 50, she gets 100. Number 3 now got 50 from the second 100, plus the third 100, which is completely hers, because she's the sole claimer on that 300, on that third 100. That's how you get to 50, 100, and 150. Rav Yaakov Menahar Pekoit, Mishmeid Ravina Amar. Oh, he has a totally different approach to the Mishnah. How do we explain these peculiar sounding numbers in the Mishnah? Like this. Nobody committed, nobody abdicated, nobody gave up any rights. Rather, it was as follows. Reisha b'shtei tfisos, v'seifa b'shtei tfisos. Both these cases are speaking that they grabbed, so to speak. They got a hold of the departed fellow's properties, or his pentaltalon. Farshim explained that metaltalon have to be actually taken into possession. You have to be teifes. So suppose the Isha or the Shliach of the Nashim happened to get a hold of this fellow's object during his lifetime, and he held on to it for the Kesubos. But it happened in increments, in stages, in 2 phases, and each one has to be dealt with and judged separately. Okay? So Reisha b'shtei tfisos, v'seifa b'shtei tfisos. Explains the Gemara. Reisha b'shtei tfisos. Let's go back to the previous case. So again, we have 3 separate scenarios in the Mishnah. First one was rather simple. They only discovered a mana. All 3 women share that equally. Okay, we're not going to discuss that. The next case was speaking where we discovered 200 zuz, which he left behind. In this case, 200 zuz, which they were teifes. Mishnah tells us, Isha number 1, whose ksuba was merely 100, will get 50. Isha number 2, whose ksuba was 200, will get 75. Isha number 3, whose ksuba was 300, will also get 75. And we'll explain how and why. Reisha b'shtei tfisos. They took possession of his possessions in 2 steps. Firstly, the naflu shivin mechamisha b'chat zimna. They got a hold of 75, coins, let's say, in one shot. Let's stop right here. So what happens now? All 3 women have an equal taina, an equal claim to this 75, right? Because even the Isha number 1 with the lowest ksuba, her ksuba is 100, which exceeds 75. So it's an equal claim on this 75. What do we do? Okay, equal claim, equal split, 25 apiece. So number 1 gets 25, number 2 gets 25, number 3 gets 25. We're done with that. Now keep in mind that number 1 has now reduced her claim by 25. She can now only claim up to 75. Number 2, Isha number 2, who already got 25, goes down from 200 to 175, etc. Now, we found more assets. Umeya ve'esrim v'chamisha b'chat zimna. They took hold of another 125 zuz worth of properties. What do we do now? So Rashi explains, it's rather complicated because we take this 125 and we sort of take it apart. The first 75 of this 125 is equally claimed by all 3 women, right? Even number 1, who already got her 25, but she still has a claim of 75 outstanding. So the first 75 of this total of 125, the second tfisa, is being claimed equally by all 3 women. So what do we do? Well, equal claim, equal division. 25 for you, 25 for you, 25 for you. So Isha number 1 got another 25 in addition to the previous 25, which she got earlier, total of 50. Exactly as the Mishnah tells us. She gets 50. And she's done. Isha number 2, who had already gotten 25 before, gets another 25 now, but she's not done yet. Why? Because keep in mind that her claim doesn't end at 75. She had a claim of 200. So true, she had already gotten 25 earlier, so that deducts. That brings it down from 200 to 175. But she claims up to 175. So now that we gave each Isha 25, as per an equal division of the first 75, which was equally claimed by all, let's move on to the rest. We started with 125. We took away that 75, which is divided equally amongst them. We're left with 50. Who's claiming that 50? Well, not number 1. She's out of the picture. But number 2 and number 3 are claiming that equally. We take that 50, we split it down the middle. 25 for you and 25 for you. So this results in the exact configuration as described in our Mishnah. Isha number 1 got her 50. Isha number 2, who previously got 25, and now again 25 when we divided the first 75, and then again 25 when we divided the final 50. She ended up with 75. And likewise, the Isha number 3 had the same exact allocation, a total of 75. Again, let's repeat this. We had 3 women. Let's call them number 1. She had 100 on her ksuba. Number 2 had 200 on her ksuba. Number 3 had 300 on her ksuba. They found $75. That was the first time around. Equal claim, equal division, 25 apiece. They found another 125. Number 1, whose claim only extends up until 100, and already had gotten 25, her claim goes down to 75. So in terms of the first 75 of this 125, all 3 have an equal claim, equal division, 25 apiece. So number 1 takes 25 in addition to her previous 25. She gets her 50, she's out of the way. Number 2 gets 25 as well right now, in addition to the previous 25. And number 3 gets 25 right now, in addition to the previous 25. But we still have 50 remaining. We started at 125, we just took off 75. So that 50 is allocated to number 2, number 3. We get another 25 each. It goes up from 50 to 75 each. That explains that case in the Mishnah. Seifa. Let's move on to the next case in the Mishnah. What happened there? They discovered 300 zuz of this fellow's assets. Again, we're speaking b'shtei tfises. It happened in 2 stages. First, the naflu shivim b'chamisha b'chad zimna. They found 75, which is equally claimed by all 3 women. They split it equally as well, 25 apiece. The next time they found way more. Umasayim b'esem b'chamisha b'chad zimna. Next time was 225 coins. What do we do now? So here it gets even a bit more complicated than the previous case. We start with 225. Okay, let's break it down to 3 sections, 3 sort of zones. We have the green zone, the yellow zone, the red zone. Out of this 225, the first 75, so to speak, I mean, it's all theoretics, the first 75 is equally claimed by all women. Why? Because the previous tfisa involved an amount of 75, which was divided equally. Number 1 got 25, number 2 got 25, number 3 got 25. Number 1 had started with a claim of 100. Now she's down to 75 because of that 25 which she had received. Now when we move on to the next stage, we found 225 additional coins. So that Isha number 1 has a claim up until 75. So the first 75 is sort of the green zone, claimed by all 3 women. Everybody has a claim to that first 75. So we take that first, and we split it equally. You take 25, you take 25, you take 25. So Isha number 1 gets 25 in addition to her previous 25, and she's off the scene, off the table. She's done. Okay? Number 2, the Isha number 2 had gotten 25 before, gets another 25 now. She right now has 50. She's waiting on the sidelines. She's not done yet. Isha number 3 also, same story. She had received 25 before. She gets another 25 now. She's waiting on the sidelines with her 50. So number 2 and number 3 have 50, but they're not done yet. Why? Because we're started with a total of 225 that we can still allocate. Part of it is still available. So how do we do it? We move on to the next zone, so to speak, in this 225. We'll call it the yellow zone. From 75 till 175 of that 225 is claimed by Isha number 2 and Isha number 3. Why? Because Isha number 2 started with a claim of 200. In the previous allocation, when they found that the first time they found the 75, she had gotten her 25. So her claim went down. It was deducted. It was reduced from 200 to 175 because she got 25 already. So now when we discover the additional 225, her claim extends until 175. Okay? Now, we had already discussed that we took the first 75, which is sort of the green zone. Everybody has access to that. Even Isha number 1 has access to that. We divided that already. We're done. So number 2 already got 25 now, 25 before. Number 3, the same. 25 before, 25 now. But we're not done. Number 2 still wants to get more. Her claim extends all the way to 175. So now when we're done with the 75, between 75 and 175 is being claimed. That's her territory. It's being claimed by number 2 and number 3. So she goes and divides that section between 75 and 175. She divides that equally with her counterpart, with number 3. So that 100 is now divided into 2 parts. Number 2 has a right to half that amount, and number 3 also. So how much is number 2 getting? She just got now half of that, that's 50. Plus the 25 that we gave her now, plus the 25 she got last time, total of 100. So number 1 got 50, she got 100. What's left? Between 175 and 225 is still available. Well, that's exclusively number 3 territory. She's the sole claimant of that money. Right? Number 3 has a tviya of 300. Her Kesubos was way more than the other ones. So she's the only one that gets that extra money, that extra 50. Between 175 and 225, that belongs to number 3. So add that to the 100 that she got, for a total of 150. That's how you get the figures in our Mishnah. So briefly again, we had 3 Nashim. Isha number 1, Kesuba of 100. Number 2, Kesuba of 200. Number 3, Kesuba of 300. We discovered 75 Zuz. Okay, equally divided. 25, 25, 25. We discovered another 225. We take that first 75. We divide it equally. 25 to you. Number 1, you got 25. Together with your previous 25, you're off the table. You're gone. Rest your claim. We take the next 25. We give it to Isha number 2 for a total of 50. We take the next 25 for Isha number 3 for a total of 50. Then the amount between 75 and 175 is claimed equally by number 2 and number 3. We split that into 2, 50 for you, 50 for you. So number 2 ends up with another 50, total of 100. Number 3 now also has 100, but she gets another 50. The difference between 175 and 225 goes to number 3 for a total of 150. Tanya says the Gemara Zu Mishnah Rabbi Nosson. This is all Rabbi Nosson's opinion that we allocate the Kesuba money in this manner, in proportion to your claims, and it's all based on various considerations. Rabbi Eimer says nothing doing. Ein ani roya dvorav Rabbi Nosson be'elu. It doesn't seem that this is the probable approach. Ella, rather, this is what I think. Cholkes b'shaveh. We treat them all equally. So let's say you have 300 zuz to work with, and you have 3 women, each one gets 100. Skip the details. Rashi explains, the fact is, everything that this husband owned is meshubad, is committed to their ksuba until they get paid out. They have a full claim. Even though I'm just number one, I have just 100, so what? Why am I any less than you? Until I'm paid up, I'm equally and able to collect from those nechasim. We're all on the same plane, and therefore split it equally. Continues the Gemara. V'chein shloisha she'etilu lekis. Amar Shmuel. Shnayim she'etilu lekis. You have two fellows coming together to form a sort of a partnership, an investment firm. They take their funds and they contribute it into this sort of a joint shared fund. Meant for investment, meant for profit taking. Zeh mana v'zeh masayim. Reuben brings a mana, Shimon brings 200. So although their contributions are unequal, nevertheless, any profits earned are shared equally by all partners. Ha-sochar la'emtza. Rashi says on top, cholkim b'shava. Well, I couldn't do it without you. That's the presumed mindset. I need you, you need me. There are other, there are many factors that make up a successful business. It's not just a matter of the amount of money you're investing. There's the know-how, the experience, the smarts, the contacts. The assumption is, unless we stipulate otherwise, it's 50-50. Now we're speaking that they would take this money and they would actually go and deal with it, invest it. It's not just some abstract, buying shares in a company. We're speaking that they were actually, doing and working and dealing. So the fact that I took you on as a partner indicates that I'm willing to split it down the middle. Omar Rabba, listen to this. Mistaver Milsei de Shmuel. It is probable that this chiddush of Shmuel, that the profits are split down the line, is strictly b'shar lecharisha, v'oimed lecharisha. They use this joint fund to purchase, for instance, a cow, an ox, meant for plowing, and it's actually serving in that capacity. In which case, I understand fully that, sure, perhaps my share is greater than yours, but I can't have an ox without you. Rashi says, "Ve'ein chelke shel zeh moyel b'loi chelke shezeh klum." My share without yours is worth nothing. An ox with two legs is going to do the job. So of course we split the profits down the middle. You're an equal partner. Aval b'shar lecharisha. But let's say they purchased an ox for plowing purposes. V'oimed l'tficha. And then it sort of shifted. They decided they're going to slaughter it. In which case now it takes on a whole new function, a whole new meaning, a whole new value. It only has its meat value. So now, certainly, each partner will profit based on his contribution, based on his share of this company, so to speak. So once we liquidate the business, we slaughter the animal. So it's understood that I'm entitled to my share of the profits. Rashi says, for instance, the animal had increased in value since the day we purchased it. So as long as it's still serving as a plowing animal, so any profits earned by renting it out, etc., is 50-50. Because I can't do it without you. But once we liquidate, I'm taking back the actual, the meat. So of course it's based on proportion. It's prorated based on my contribution. So if I have 80% of that animal, I'm entitled to 80% of the added value, the additional profits which came about throughout this relationship, throughout this experience. So if the meat is worth more today than it was then, I get a greater share prorated based on my contribution. So that's Rabbi's chiddush. But Rav Hamnuna Amar, he disagrees. He says no. In all cases, the mindset is, unless they stipulate otherwise, I need you, you need me, it's a 50-50 deal. Afilu chashada charisha. Let's say they purchase it for plowing purposes, and then it reverted to slaughtering, and now it only has its meat value. Any profits that were made are split down the middle. Meisve, here comes a kasha on Rabbi. On Rabbi, who tells us that, once we look at meat value, then each fellow gets, based on his contribution. Meisve, Shnaim Shetilu Lekis. Two partners who contributed to a joint fund. Zeman v'zemosayim, Reuven put in 100, Shimon 200. Hasachal le'emtza, any profits are split evenly. Mylab, shall we not assume, we're speaking even about this case, b'shar l'charisha, v'amid, although the animal had been purchased to serve as a plowing animal, and then it was shifted into a tvicha, they decided to slaughter it, still, we ignore the meat value svara, we say no. It's a jointly owned animal, a joint fund, and any profits are shared equally. By the way, I should have mentioned this before. Of course, I'm entitled to take back, 80% of the principal. That's goes without saying. We're not talking about the principal. I'm talking about any profits that came about throughout this, this period. Who gets that? Is that split equally, or is that prorated based on my contribution? So the greater the contribution, the greater the profits. That's the question. So again, the Brisa says, profits belong to both equally. We're assuming even if it's going to be slaughtered, in which case it's no longer serving as a plowing animal, in which case you can't say the svara, my part of the animal can't work without your part of the animal. It doesn't apply when it's just being sold as meat. We have to the Rabbah, it's a Kasham Rabbah who told us otherwise. That when treated as meat, we look at the meat value. 80% owner gets the 80% of the meat profit. So the perhaps we're speaking about a plowing animal. And it's not intended for slaughtering. And in that case, certainly we understand why it is so. Because, it's like a plane. Let's say I own a plane but I only have one wing. What good is one wing? I need your second wing, sure. Proportionately, it's a smaller part of the plane compared to mine, but you're serving a very, very crucial and critical function here. So, you get equal share. But suppose it's being used for shchita. What would happen? So then you revert to the actual, prorating system. It's all about what he contributed. So you get back based on what you contributed. Adatani seif. If that were so let's look at the second part of the brisa. Why did the brisa have to go find, some other case? Lokach ze b'shaloi, v'ze b'shaloi. When the brisa is trying to highlight a case where, in fact, you would take back based on on your contribution. What kind of cases does the brisa come up with? Lokach ze b'shaloi. Reuben, purchased some animals. He had, 100 zuz. He brought some lower quality animals into the deal. Shimon, who had the 200, well, for 200 you can buy better animals. So he brought animals that were higher quality, mixed it into the farm. Finished and they, mixed it together to serve as a, in the farm and generate business, generate profit. What happens now? What percentage of the profit would each one get? Is it 50-50 or is it based on his contribution? What does the Brisa say? Here, it's all about your contribution. You earn based on how much you contributed. Why? So Rashi explains, because a better animal serves a better purpose, earns more, works better. So here it's not about a shared fund, because we have the actual animal intact, my animals and your animals. So here it's different than a shared fund, which sort of mixes together and becomes a new entity. Here all would agree, Kuli Alma are agreeing, I am entitled to my percentage of the profits, prorated based on what I contributed. Because the Karen, the principle is still intact, it's there, it's real. It's my animals that are producing that profit. So I'm entitled to a greater share of the profits. Okay, it's a fair halacha. But if the Brisa is just looking for an example where it's prorated based on your contribution, instead of reverting to the next case of the purchased animals, just stick to the case of two fellows contributing funds into a joint fund used to purchase and to profit. And we could have found a deviation, we could have found a variation within that scenario, instead of jumping to the case of purchased animals. When do we say that in fact they're both entitled to an equal share of the property? When they purchased an animal to be used for plowing, and in fact it's still serving that capacity. So although I contributed to 80% of that animal, it doesn't matter, because my 80% will not be able to walk around without your 20%. That's understood. And the Brisa should have stipulated Aval, but I'll give an exception to the rule. Instead of running to the case of the purchased animals and they both contributed to the animals, no, let's stick to the fund. They both contributed to the fund which was used to purchase an animal for business purposes. And we can find an exception within that case, a case where you will take back your profits based on your contribution, rather than 50-50. This animal eventually reverted to slaughtering, in which case you're dealing with the actual meat value, it's only fair that I retrieve my profits based on how much I contributed. So I'm entitled to a higher percentage than you are. So the kasha is that if in fact this is true, if in fact Rabba's distinction is true, that when the animal reverts to tevicha and it's no longer functioning in a farming capacity, then each partner is entitled to his percentage of the profits prorated as per his contribution. So why didn't the Brisa mention that? That's exactly what the Brisa actually had in mind. When do we say profits are split equally? When two partners deposited into a fund which was used to purchase an animal for farming, for profiting. It was meant for plowing, and it's still plowing. Any profits are distributed equally, because we're equal partners in the plowing, capacity. But an animal which was initially purchased for plowing, but then was reverted to stvicha, it's no longer serving in the farming capacity. In this case, we focus on the actual value of the meat of the animal. And certainly, the fellow that contributed a greater amount is entitled to a greater percentage of any profits that were generated in the meat itself. We treat that case as though Reuben actually brought animals into the deal, and Shimon brought lower quality animals into the deal. When they were put together on a farm to profit and to earn money, where in that case, certainly, there's no question, it's prorated. That's exactly what the Brisa had in mind. We're just trying to make the point strongly that a case of an animal which turns into a slaughtered animal is like a case where each fellow contributed an actual animal and the animal is still intact. Of course, I'm entitled to my portion, to my percentage, to my contribution, because my contribution is still there. It was never sort of dissolved into a joint fund. Tanan, let's go back to our Mishnah. Now we're going to have a kasha on Shmuel. Shmuel tells us a shared fund which generates profits belongs to both partners equally, irrespective of their disproportionate contributions. Tanan, what does the Mishnah say? You have three fellows contributing to a joint fund which either made money or lost money. Pichasu, it went down, or yisiru, or it went up. Kachen cholken. Their division will model the first part of the Mishnah, of the Ksuba, which according to our Mishnah, which is Mishnah's Rabbi Nassim, we don't divide it equally. Rabbi held Cholkas b'Shav. According to Rabbi Nassim, we have all kinds of configurations which are very unequal. And actually they are more or less in proportion to the amounts in their ksuba and their claims. So why is the Mishnah telling us that a joint fund is treated the same way? According to Shmuel, it's not so. Mailav, shall we not assume, was speaking about actual loss or profits. Pichsu means pichsu mamish. There was actual loss in the business. Haisiru means haisiru mamish. There was actual gain and profit. That's a kasha on Shmuel. Tells us that in all these types of cases, both partners experience this equally. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avo, lo, you're not speaking about profit or gain in the classic sense. Rather, we're speaking about a partnership as follows. Reuben and Shimon brought along their coins. And they sort of made a business, a money exchange, a banking business used for maso matan, right? It seems like there was like a money lending business. And what happened? At the end of the day, there was profit. But not in the literal sense. It wasn't like they found more money there. It wasn't like they made money. But Haisiru means Zuzi Chadati. When the Mishnah speaks about going up or down, it means that the actual coin went up in quality. Pichsu means Istira Dotsanisa, it went down in quality. It means like this. They have this business, they have this bank. So any profits, well, that's a different story. That's Shmuel's halacha. That's split equally, because their business created a profit, and the business is like a corporation. It's a jointly owned entity, in which case each partner is equally entitled. But the Mishnah, in mentioning the word haisiru or pichsu, is not referring to profits in the literal sense. Rather, the actual money became worth more. So let's say they started with old, rubbed out coins, and suddenly when they're about to dissolve the business, they see, wow, fresh, gleaming coins. So now when I'm taking back my 100, and you're taking back your 200, you are entitled to those coins. And any gain, any increase in quality and value of the actual coin is unrelated to you. It's my money. Now, even though it's not actually your coin, the actual coin that you that you brought into the business, we're talking 10 years later. But when I take back actual money, it's as though I'm taking back my share. It's different than meat. It's different than an animal, something which is purchased with our money. When I'm taking back money, money is like the building unit of a business. We liquidated the business, so to speak. I'm taking back my share in a money form. This is my money. It's a thief of art. It's my money, which I actually contributed. The fact that it's looking better and worth more, that's my gain. It's not like the business profited. It's my money. It's my coin, which is now better. So I get my 100 back, and you get your 200 back. And I have no share in what you gained in terms of your 200 being worth more. Because anything in the actual coin belongs to the coin owner. Likewise, if it went down in value, if it's, let's say, it went out of circulation. So that's the coin owner's loss. So my 100 that lost their value, it's my issue. Your 200, it's your issue. We don't share that loss because they pertain to the actual coin, the actual money on which we had a claim. The money which we brought into the business, which we're not taking back from the business. But in terms of real profits, suppose they started with, I gave 100, you gave 200, so we had 300, now it's 1,000. Of course, that extra 700, that's real profit, which is divided equally amongst us. Let's see the words inside again. Haisiru, when we're speaking about gaining, Zuzi Chadeti. The old coins certainly turned into new coins through all this, banking and back and forthing. Pachas, when we speak about Pichas, went down Istira de Tzonisa, a coin which is used to cover a wound, a callus on a foot. Rashi says, based on Gemara Shabbos, they used to use coins for that. We're speaking that it's just a slug now. It's not worth anything. It went out of circulation. It lost its value. So then the actual coin lost value. The coin owner experiences that value. Okay, let's just summarize. we have a joint fund. Several fellows contribute money to a joint fund. Reuven gave 100, Shimon 200. According to Shmuel, Sachar la'emtza, any profit or loss is shared equally by both partners. Rabbah tells us, well, you should know that if it's an animal which is not being used for tzvicha, it's being shechted, we focus on the actual meat value, in which case each fellow is entitled to retrieve a profit based on the percentage of his ownership. Likewise, if Reuven brought 10 animals of higher quality, Shimon 10 animals of lower quality into the business, they generated profit. Certainly, the profits which were generated by the better animals, were definitely more than the other ones, and therefore, that owner is entitled to a higher percentage of the profits. Likewise, if the gain or loss are actually tangible, visible in the money itself, as we just explained, there as well, it's lafi ma'isa. Continues the Mishnah. Misha yanasa dalad nashim. This fellow was married to 4 women, and he passed away. Now, in contrast to the previous Mishnah, where all women were married on the same day, here they were staggered. So now, when he passed away, the first Isha, her claim precedes the second Isha. So let's say there isn't enough to go around, she gets first. Ushniya l'shlishis, number 2 goes before number 3. Ushlishis l'reviyis, number 3 before number 4. Now, there must be a shvua made as well. Urishoyna nishbas l'shniya. The first Isha has to swear to the second Isha, look, I know I'm taking these funds, and I'm not going to leave you much. I'm swearing to you that I never took, I'm entitled to it. Ushniya l'shlishis, the same between the second and the third, the shlishis l'reviyis, and between the third and the fourth. V'reviyis, with the fourth Isha, who has nobody behind her, she's not accountable to anybody. Nefrash l'bishvur, she can just receive her money without swearing. That's the Tanakh. But Nanos Omer, no, it's unfair. Just because she's the last one on the list, she's going to come out ahead and gaining. She's not going to have to prove her case. She as well must swear. The Gemara will explain the reason behind this machlekes. Suppose we take a look at all the Kesubos and we see they were all written on the same day. If it so happens that one was written an hour before the other one, she goes first. In fact, in Yerushalayim, they stipulate the hour as well as the date. They were all signed on the same hour. There's only a month to go around. We split it equally amongst them all. So what did we learn today? A fellow who's married to 3 nashim, he passes away. Now we're speaking that those 3 Kesubos were all signed on the same day. So in terms of dating and timing, they're all on equal footing. Now before we start, we have to remember, according to Rebbe, he disagrees with the whole Mishnah. He holds that all 3 have an equal claim. We split whatever's around equally. But according to Rabbi Nassan, it's not so simple. So again, we have 3 Kesubos. One is a money, that's lady number 1. Lady number 2 has Masayim, and lady number 3 has 300. We have 3 cases in the Mishnah. First case, we found 100 zuz. Pretty simple, each one gets 33 and a third. Because they all 3 have an equal claim on that 100. I found 200. Number 1 gets 50, number 2 gets 75, number 3 gets 75. Why? We have 2 pshatim. Either we're speaking Kesubos. Number 2 told number 1, I'm going to be uninvolved in that first 100. So you can get half of it together with number 3. So number 1 gets 50, and then we have 50 remaining from that first 100, plus the second 100 that's sitting here. So that 150 is split equally between lady number 2 and lady number 3. Or in the second pshat in the Gemara, there were 2 tefisas, which means first we found $75 worth. We take that and we split it equally amongst all 3 women, 25, 25, and 25. Then we find another 125 available. So Isha number 1, who already got her 25 out of her 100, has a claim of up until 75. So the first 75 of that 125 is claimed equally by all women and split equally amongst them. So we give another 25 per Isha. So number 1 gets 25 plus the previous 25 for a total of 50. How much do we have And number 2 gets 25 as well, and number 3 gets 25 as well. So both 2 and 3 have 50 each. How much is left? Well, we found 125, and we took off 75, we just divided. We have 50 left. Split it equally, 25 to number 2, 25 to number 3, for a total of 75 each. That explains the second halacha in the Mishnah. In the third halacha, we found 300. Mishnah says number 1 gets 50, number 2 100, number 3 150. Why? We have 2 pshatim. Either we're speaking that Isha number 3 told Isha number 1, number 2, I'm letting go of the first 100. So number 1, number 2 get 50 of that first 100. Now, once number 1 is out of the way, we still have the 200 left. So number 2 has a claim in that second 100, which she splits with number 3. So it's 50 apiece. So number 2 already had 50 before. She gets 50 now for a total of 100. And likewise, number 3 gets a total of 100. 150. Why? Because she gets half of the second 100 together with number 2. And the last 100, the third 100, that's totally hers for a total of 150. In the second Pshat, the Gemara was speaking that it happened in 2 stages. First, they found 75, which was split equally by all 3 women, so 25, 25, and 25. Then they discovered another 225. We split into 3 zones, so to speak. The first zone, the first 75, is sort of the green zone, accessible by all women. 25, 25, and 25. Which gives the Isha number 1 a total of 50. 25 now, in addition to her previous 25. And likewise, Isha number 2 has 50, Isha number 3 has 50. But now, Isha number 2 says, well, the area between 75 and 175 is still mine as well. I started with a claim of 200. I already got 25 before. Right? And now I had a claim of 175. So you took the first 75 and you gave me 25, very good. But between 75 and 175 is also claimed by me. I'm going to split that with number 3. So it gives me another 50. In addition to the 50 I've already gotten, 100 total. Number 3 also got 50 already. And she's splitting that extra 100 now with number 2 for another total of 100. Plus, the area between 175 and 225 belongs exclusively to her. So she goes up from 100 to 150. In the next case, we had Hitilu Lakis. They made a joint fund, according to Shmuel, Sachar's La'emtza. We have some exceptions, like, let's say, they actually purchased animals and joined the farm together. The profit is shared based on percentage of contribution. Likewise, when there's actual loss or gain in the money that they're taking back from the business, in that case, again, it's Lafi Ma'isif. Now, in contrast to the previous Mishnah, where all the Kesubos are dated on the same day, in the second Mishnah, they are staggered, and therefore the first one gets priority over the second one, over the third, over the fourth. They have to make a shvuah to each other, unless, as the Mishnah concludes, they're all written on the same day, in which case they split everything equally. All the best to you, Hatzlacha Rabba, and Besureis Tovos.